The blue-skinned alien named Zektil paced nervously across the polished floor of the Confederation Council chamber. His four eyes blinked at different times as he gathered his thoughts. Around him, 15 other representatives from different worlds sat in a half-circle. Their faces showed fear. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had scales or feathers. None looked like humans. "We have lost 3 more worlds to the Kurthak this month," Zektil said. His voice translator made his high-pitched sounds into words the others could understand. "At this rate, the Valerian Confederation will be gone in 60 days. The chamber stayed quiet. No one argued with him. The facts were clear. The Kurthak invasion force had destroyed everything in its path for the past year. The Confederation's ships were no match for them. "We have one option left," Zektil continued. He touched a control panel and a small blue planet appeared as a hologram in the center of the room. "This is Earth, the home of the creatures known as humans." Gasps filled the room. One representative, a tall, thin alien with gray skin, stood. "Up humans, the Deathworlders? You cannot be serious," she said. Her name was Linko, from a low-gravity world where the tallest tree grew only to the height of a human child. "They are monsters," Zektil nodded. "Yes, they evolved on a world that would kill most of us in minutes. Their planet has dangerous levels of oxygen, crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, and countless deadly predators. But they not only survived, they became the dominant species." "All the more reason to stay away from them," another representative called out. This one had a shell-like back and moved slowly. "We've all seen the data from our observation posts. They fight wars against each other constantly. They build weapons that can destroy their own planet." Zektil raised his hand for quiet. "Yes, they are violent, but they also protect their own kind. They form bonds. They understand alliances. The Kurthak do not. They only destroy." The room fell silent again. On a large screen at the front of the chamber, images began to play. They showed planets that once held life. Beautiful cities, forests, oceans. Then the same planets after. The Kurthak had finished with them. Dead worlds with poisoned air and boiled oceans. "We have monitored Earth for 70 years, Zektil said. "We have watched them advance from primitive rockets to ships that can reach their outer planets. They now have the technology to help us, if they choose to." The oldest member of the council, with skin that had faded to pale yellow with age, spoke up. "What makes you think these humans would fight for aliens they have never met?" Zektil touched his control panel again. New images appeared on the screen. Humans rescuing other humans from burning buildings. Humans in small boats saving others from floods. Humans protecting children not their own. They have a strange quality. They call it compassion. Even for strangers, Zektil explained, and they love a good fight, especially when they see themselves as protectors. After 3 hours of debate, the council voted. It was close, but they approved Zektil's plan. They would send a message to Earth, asking for help. The fastest scout ship in the Confederation launched that same day. It carried no weapons, only the most advanced communications equipment, and a small crew of 4. Their mission was simple: reach Earth, deliver their message, and hope the Deathworlders would listen. The journey took 12 days. As they approached the edge of Earth's solar system, they began broadcasting their message on all frequencies humans might monitor. "Humanity, we face extinction. The Kurthak destroy all in their path. We offer knowledge, technology, and alliance in exchange for your aid. Please help us survive." They repeated this message in every language they had recorded from Earth's broadcasts. Then they waited. On Earth, Dr. Laura Miller sat in her office at NASA's Deep Space Communications Array in New Mexico. It was late, almost midnight, but she had stayed to finish analyzing data from the new Jupiter probe. When her computer alerted her to an unusual signal, she nearly ignored it. Then she saw the source. It wasn't from any known satellite or probe. It was coming from just beyond Neptune's orbit. She put on her headphones and listened. The message repeated in English, then Mandarin, then Spanish, then Russian, and dozens of other languages. Her hands shook as she picked up her phone. "Sir, this is Dr. Miller at DSCA New Mexico. We're receiving a message from, well, I think it's from aliens. Yes, sir, actual aliens. You need to hear this now. Within 2 hours, the recording reached the desk of President Frank Garrison. He sat in the Oval Office with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and his science advisors. They listened to the message 5 times. Could this be a hoax? The President asked. The Director of National Intelligence shook her head. No nation on Earth has the technology to broadcast from that location. And we've confirmed the signal is coming closer. There's a ship out there, sir. President Garrison stood up and walked to the window. He looked up at the night sky. They're asking for our help, he said quietly. Get me Nathan Cole from the Ares program. Nathan Cole had been asleep when the call came. The Director of Humanities. Mars' colonization effort wasn't used to middle-of-the-night phone calls, especially ones that started with, "The President needs to speak with you immediately." Now he stood in a secure room at the White House watching the same recording that the President had seen hours earlier. They're real, Nathan said, his voice barely above a whisper. Actual aliens. And they need our help, President Garrison said. I've already authorized first contact procedures. Their ship will be escorted to lunar orbit by our Space Force vessels. But what happens next depends on you, Nathan. Me? I build colony ships. I'm not a diplomat. The President smiled. Those colony ships are the only vessels we have that could possibly be converted for deep space combat operations. And you know them better than anyone. Your Mars mission is postponed, Nathan. You're going to war. Nathan felt his heart race. Everything. He had worked for over the past decade. The dream of establishing the first human colony on Mars was being set aside. But in its place was something even more incredible. Humanity's first steps into a larger universe. How long do we have? He asked. The alien representatives will arrive in lunar orbit tomorrow. They say their civilization has maybe 2 months before total collapse. So you have weeks, not months, to prepare. Nathan nodded. Then we better get started. Within hours, the news broke worldwide. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and their first alien visitors had come not to invade, but to beg for help. In his quarters later that night, Nathan watched the global reaction on television. Some people panicked, others celebrated. Religious leaders called for calm and compassion. Military experts debated strategies. Nathan turned off the TV and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization waited to see if humans would come to their rescue. Deathworlders, they called us. Soon they would find out what that really meant. Nathan Cole stood in the giant hangar on the moon, looking up at the massive ships that filled the space. These 12 ships had been built to carry humans to Mars. Each one was almost a kilometer long. They had been designed to transport people, supplies, and equipment needed to build a new home on the red planet. Now they would serve a very different purpose. How are the modifications coming along? Nathan asked. Chief Engineer Olivia Patel walked beside him, her tablet computer displaying progress reports. She was short, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Despite working for 30 hours straight, her eyes remained sharp and focused. We're on schedule, she said. 3 weeks to convert all 12 ships. The Valerian data on Kurthak technology has been extremely helpful. It's letting us design weapons that should be effective against their ships. Nathan nodded as they walked past teams of workers. Some were removing habitat modules to make room for weapon systems. Others were installing new power generators that could handle the energy needs of shields and weapons. The Valerian ambassador is here, Olivia added. He wants to see our progress. Nathan spotted the alien near one of the ships. Ambassador Ziktil looked even more fragile in person than he had on video calls. His thin blue skin seemed almost transparent under the bright lights of the hangar. He was accompanied by Dr. Samantha Gray, the diplomat assigned to work with him. Ambassador, Nathan said as he approached, welcome to the Luna construction yards. The alien turned all 4 of his eyes toward Nathan. Director Cole, he said through his translator device. Your people work with remarkable speed. On our world, such modifications would take months, not weeks. We're good at adapting, Nathan replied. It's what humans do best. So I am learning, Ziktil said. Your president has granted me access to your military training facilities on Earth. What I witnessed there—" He paused, his skin changing color slightly. "It was both terrifying and impressive." Dr. Gray smiled. "The ambassador observed Marine training exercises yesterday. He was quite shocked." "Your soldiers willingly jump from flying machines," Zictil said. "They swim across waters that would drown my kind in seconds. They fight in conditions that simulate extreme heat, cold, and even radiation. How is this possible?" Nathan shrugged. "Earth throws a lot at us, always has. We've learned to deal with it." As they walked through the hangar, Nathan explained the changes being made to the ships. The colony vessels had already been equipped with strong hulls and radiation shielding for space travel. Now they were being fitted with weapon systems and additional armor. "The biggest challenge is power management," Olivia explained. "Weapons and shields need enormous amounts of energy. We've adapted some Valerian technology to improve our reactors." Zictil looked troubled. "I must ask something that concerns my council. Your weapons, they seem designed to destroy, not disable. Is there no way to capture the Kurthik ships instead?" Nathan exchanged glances with Olivia before answering. "Ambassador, based on everything you've told us, the Kurthak don't surrender. They don't negotiate, they fight until they win or die. Is that correct?" "Yes," the alien admitted. "They have never communicated with us except to demand complete submission. Then we fight the enemy we have, not the one we wish we had," Nathan said. "Our priority is stopping them from destroying more of your worlds." Later that day, Nathan attended a briefing with military personnel who would crew the ships. Admiral Jack Warren, a tall man with gray hair and a weathered face, led the session. He had been chosen to command the overall fleet while Nathan would captain the lead ship. "The Kurthak have numbers on their side," Warren explained to the room full of officers. "Our advantage is that they've never faced anything like us. They've conquered peaceful species who couldn't or wouldn't fight back effectively." On a large screen, images of Kurthak ships appeared. They looked organic, like they had been grown rather than built. Long spines extended from central masses that pulsed with alien energy. "Their ships are tough but slow to maneuver," Warren continued. "Our tactics will focus on speed and coordination. Hit hard, move fast, and don't let them surround you." After the meeting, Nathan found a quiet spot to eat dinner. He was surprised when Dr. Gray joined him carrying her own tray of food. "How's the ambassador doing?" Nathan asked. "Struggling with mixed feelings," she replied. "They're terrified of the Kurthak. But I think they're also becoming a little afraid of us, too." Nathan paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. "Why?" "We're helping them." "Yes. But the way we're preparing for war is unlike anything they've seen before. Their species evolved on worlds with few natural threats. They never developed our kind of aggressive response to danger." She took a sip of water. "When Ambassador Zictil watched our training exercises, his heart rate was so elevated, our doctors were concerned." "What scared him so much?" "Everything. The way our soldiers can keep fighting when injured. Our comfort with weapons. Our willingness to risk death." She leaned forward. "He asked me if all humans are born knowing how to fight." Nathan couldn't help but laugh. "What did you tell him?" "I said no, but we all know we might need to someday. It's in our history, our stories, our games." She looked thoughtful. "I think that scared him even more." As weeks passed, the ships took shape. What had once been vessels of exploration became weapons of war. The fleet was named the Human Expeditionary Force. The lead ship, which Nathan would command, was rechristened as HES Challenger. 2 days before launch, Nathan addressed the assembled crews. 5,000 men and women stood at attention in the Yao, largest assembly area on the lunar base. Some were military personnel. Others were civilians with skills needed for the mission. "None of us expected to be here," Nathan began. "A month ago, we didn't know aliens existed. Now we're preparing to fight a war across the stars. You all had different plans, different dreams. But you answered the call because that's what humans do when someone asks for help." He paused, looking out at the faces before him. The Valerians call us Deathworlders. They think Earth is a harsh, dangerous planet that made us into tough, violent creatures. There's some truth to that, but they're missing something important about us. Yes, Earth taught us how to fight, but it also taught us to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's why we're going. A cheer rose from the assembled crews. Even the Valerian observers standing at the back of the room seemed moved by the display of human determination. As the launch date approached, final preparations were made. Supplies were loaded. Weapons were tested. Crews ran drills to prepare for combat in deep space. On the morning of launch, Nathan stood on the bridge of the Challenger. Through the view screen, he could see Earth hanging like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. He thought about everything he was leaving behind and the unknown dangers that waited ahead. "All systems ready," reported Lieutenant Ben Ramirez at the communication station. "The fleet awaits your command, sir." Nathan took a deep breath. "Signal all ships. Operation Sentinel is now active. We launch in 5 minutes." Across the fleet, engines powered up. Humanity was about to enter the galactic stage, not as explorers or diplomats, but as warriors coming to the aid of a desperate people. The Deathworlders were going to war. The journey to the Valerian home system took 14 days. Human scientists had used the alien technology to improve their engines far beyond what would have been possible without help. The 12 ships of the human expeditionary force moved through space faster than any human vessel before them. Nathan spent most of the journey studying everything the Valerians had shared about the Kurthak. He learned that they came from a low-gravity world with a thick atmosphere. Their bodies were based on silicon instead of carbon. This gave them natural armor and resistance to energy weapons. No one knew what their planet of origin looked like now. They had left it centuries ago, moving across the galaxy and taking whatever they wanted. On the final day before arrival, Nathan called the ship captains together for a last briefing. They gathered virtually, each appearing as a hologram, on the Challenger's bridge. "We'll exit faster than light travel at the edge of the Valerian system," Nathan explained. "According to their latest message, the Kurthak have pushed through the outer defenses and are approaching the inner planets. We expect to face between 80 and 100 enemy ships." Captain Kimberly Reese of the HES Dauntless frowned. "We're outnumbered almost 10 to 1. "Yes," Nathan agreed, "but we have advantages they don't expect. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable, and the Kurthak have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of." The plan was simple but dangerous. The human fleet would emerge from FTL travel and immediately move into attack formation. No warning, no attempt to communicate. Just instant attack at maximum speed to create confusion among the enemy. "Remember," Nathan said to close the meeting, "the Valerians are watching. This is humanity's first appearance on the galactic stage. Let's make sure everyone remembers it." The human fleet dropped out of FTL travel exactly as planned. The Valerian system spread out before them on their screens. It was beautiful, with 7 planets circling a yellow sun similar to Earth's. But the beauty was marred by the scene of battle. Near the 3rd planet, a swarm of alien ships surrounded a much smaller group of defending vessels. "Tactical display," Nathan ordered. The main screen shifted to show the positions of all ships in the system. The Kurthak fleet appeared, as red markers, nearly 100 of them. The few remaining Valerian defenders showed as blue. The human ships were green. "All ships form up in delta pattern," Nathan commanded. "Prepare main weapons. Target the outer edge of their formation first." The human ships moved with precision, spreading out into an arrowhead formation with the Challenger at the point. The weapons they carried had been designed specifically to counter Kurthak defenses, based on everything the Valerians knew about their enemies. "Sir," Lieutenant Ben Ramirez called from the communications station. "We're receiving transmissions from both sides. The Valerians are sending welcome messages. They're cheering for us." "And the Kurthak?" Nathan asked. Ramirez listened to his earpiece. "It's hard to translate exactly, but I think they're laughing. They don't seem concerned about our arrival." "They will be," Nathan said. "Weapons officer, prepare to fire kinetic penetrators on my mark." The human fleet accelerated toward the battle, moving much faster than the Valerians or Kurthak ships could travel. The enemy vessels began to turn slowly to face this new threat, but they moved with a sluggishness that surprised the human crews. "They're slow," Olivia Patel noted from her engineering station. "Their reaction time is terrible by our standards." "Low gravity species," Nathan explained. "They evolved on a world where everything moved more slowly than on Earth. That's to our advantage." The distance closed rapidly. The Kurthak ships grew larger on the view screens. They looked organic, like giant sea creatures made of bone and shell, with spines and tendrils extending from central masses. Energy weapons began to fire from the alien vessels, but the human ships were moving too quickly to be easy targets. 5 seconds to optimal firing range, reported the weapons officer. Nathan watched the tactical display, waiting for the perfect moment. "All ships and fire!" The human fleet released their first volley of weapons. The kinetic penetrators were simple in concept but devastating in effect. Basically giant rods of dense tungsten metal. They carried no explosives. They didn't need to. At the speeds they traveled, their kinetic energy alone was enough to punch through almost any material. The Kurthak ships had evolved their defenses to handle energy weapons like lasers or plasma. Nothing had prepared them for primitive projectiles, moving at such speeds. The first volley tore through the front line of alien vessels, ripping holes in their organic-looking hulls. 5 enemy ships were destroyed immediately. 7 more spun out of control, leaking atmosphere and strange fluids into space. "Hit confirmed," shouted the tactical officer. Multiple enemy ships disabled or destroyed. On the Valerian homeworld, the Confederation Council watched the battle on large screens in their chamber. They had expected the humans to help, but nothing had prepared them for what they were witnessing. The Deathworlders fought with a speed and violence that shocked even those who had advocated for contacting Earth. "Their reflexes," whispered one council member. "How can they coordinate their movements so quickly?" Ambassador Zichtil, who had returned to his homeworld ahead of the human fleet, watched with mixed feelings of hope and horror. "This is why they survived on their world," he said. "This is what evolution on a death world creates." Back in space, the battle continued. The human fleet executed a perfect turn after their first attack run, avoiding the bulk of the Kurthak fleet, while picking off more ships at the edges of their formation. The enemy was responding now, trying to surround the smaller human force. Their movements were becoming more coordinated as they recovered from the initial shock. "They're adapting," Nathan observed. "Formation Omega now." The human ships broke apart, each choosing individual targets instead of staying in tight formation. This confused the Kurthak even more. They had evolved to fight enemies who used predictable patterns and slow, careful movements. The chaos of human battle tactics made no sense to them. A Kurthak ship 3 times the size of the Challenger moved to intercept Nathan's vessel. It fired energy beams that splashed against the human ship's shields holding at 70%, reported Olivia. "Their weapons are powerful, but our defenses are working." "Target their weapons nodes," Nathan ordered. "Fire when ready." The Challenger released another volley of kinetic penetrators, this time aimed at specific points on the enemy vessel. 3 of the 4 shots hit their targets, destroying the alien ship's main weapons. The 4th penetrator missed its mark but punched through the ship's central section instead. The massive alien vessel began to break apart. "One down," Nathan said. "Move to the next target." For 3 hours, the battle raged across the Valerian system. The humans lost 2 ships in the fighting, their crews escaping in life pods that were quickly recovered by other vessels. The Kurthak lost 27 ships with more damaged or disabled, but the outcome was still uncertain. The Kurthak still had superior numbers, and now they were beginning to understand human tactics. They started to predict where the human ships would go, setting traps and catching them in crossfires. "We need a new approach," Nathan said as the Challenger rocked from a near miss. "We can't win a battle of attrition. There are too many of them." "Sir," called Alex Hudson from the science station. "I've been analyzing their communication patterns. There's something interesting here." Nathan moved to her station. "What have you found?" "They're not acting independently," Alex explained. "All their tactical decisions seem to come from that large ship at the back of their formation." She pointed to a massive vessel on the tactical display, easily twice the size of any other Kurthak ship. Nathan studied the pattern. A command ship or some kind of hive mind? Could be either, Alex replied. But if we could take out that ship... Nathan nodded slowly, a plan forming in his mind. Then we might just win this after all. Nathan stared at the tactical display, watching the movements of the Kurthak ships. The large command vessel stayed far behind the main battle, protected by 3 rings of defender ships. It would be nearly impossible to reach it through conventional attacks. We need a plan, he said to his bridge crew. That command ship is the key to winning this battle. Lieutenant Greg Dixon spoke up from the navigation station. Sir, what if we try something they wouldn't expect from a spacefaring species? What do you mean? Nathan asked. Greg had been an extreme sports athlete before joining the Ares program. He was known for thinking outside normal boundaries. The Kurthak fight like space has rules, Greg explained. They use formations and patterns. What if we break all the rules? Do something completely crazy that no rational space captain would ever try? A small smile formed on Nathan's face. I'm listening. 6 hours later, the human fleet had regrouped after falling back to the outer edge of the system. The Kurthak seemed to think they were retreating and had slowed their pursuit. This gave Nathan time to explain his plan to the other ship captains. This is insane, Captain Reese said when she heard the plan. But I don't see any other way to win against these numbers. Admiral Warren, commanding from the HES Intrepid, nodded his agreement. It's the kind of move only humans would think of. That's why it might work. The plan called for the 7 remaining human ships to form a tight formation and charge directly at the center of the Kurthak fleet. It looked like a suicide run. No sensible commander would send their entire force directly into the strongest part of an enemy fleet. The Kurthak will expect us to attack their flanks or look for weak points, Nathan explained. They won't expect us to charge straight at them. Their psychology is different from ours. They don't understand the concept of self-sacrifice. When all was ready, the human fleet formed up with the Challenger at the center. The ships locked their positions just a few hundred meters apart, dangerously close for vessels traveling at such high speeds. All ships report ready, Ben Ramirez announced from communications. Nathan took a deep breath. Begin the Thermopylae maneuver. The 7 human ships accelerated as one, heading directly toward the heart of the Kurthak fleet. As expected, the alien vessels concentrated their fire on this apparent suicide charge. Energy beams and plasma bolts streaked toward the human formation. Shields at 60%, Olivia reported as the Challenger shook from multiple hits. Stay. On course, Nathan ordered. All power to forward shields. The distance closed rapidly. The Kurthak ships grew larger on the view screens. The human vessels took more and more damage as they approached. One ship, the HES Valiant, lost its shields entirely and began to take hull damage. Now, Nathan commanded when they reached the predetermined point. 3 ships, the Challenger, the Intrepid, and the Dauntless, suddenly broke formation. Their engines flared with emergency power, pushing them to dangerous speeds. They shot through gaps in the surprised Kurthak formation, heading directly for the command ship in the rear. The remaining human ships continued their frontal assault, keeping the main Kurthak force occupied. The Valiant took critical damage and began to break apart, its crew evacuating to escape pods. The 3 breakaway ships raced toward the command vessel. The Kurthak defenders turned to intercept them, but they moved too slowly. The human ships were moving faster than any vessel the aliens had ever encountered. Intrepid taking heavy fire, reported Ben Ramirez. They've lost engines and weapons. On the tactical display, Nathan saw the Intrepid fall behind, spinning out of control as its systems failed. Only the Challenger and Dauntless remained on. Course for the command ship. Dauntless, prepare to cover us, Nathan ordered. We're going for the final approach. Captain Reese's voice came through the comms. Understood, Challenger, we'll keep them busy. The Dauntless moved to intercept the defender ships while the Challenger continued toward the command vessel. But the Kurthak were learning. They concentrated all their fire on the Dauntless, recognizing the threat it posed. "Dauntless shields failing," reported the tactical officer. "Hull breaches on multiple decks." Nathan watched as the Dauntless fought valiantly, drawing fire away from the Challenger. The ship took hit after hit until its engines exploded in a bright flash. The Dauntless was gone, but it had done its job. The path to the command ship was clear. "Prepare the Nova package," Nathan ordered. The nuclear ordnance vectored attack was a weapon of last resort. Essentially a precisely controlled nuclear explosion, it was designed to disable rather than destroy. But at this range, it would likely destroy both the target and the ship deploying it. "Sir, if we deploy that this close," Olivia began. No," Nathan cut her off. "Begin evacuation procedures. All personnel to escape pods." Alarms sounded throughout the Challenger. Crew members raced to their assigned evacuation points. On the bridge, Nathan remained at his station, plotting the final approach. "Sir, you need to evacuate too," Ben Ramirez said, standing by the bridge exit. "I'll make sure the package deploys correctly," Nathan replied. "That command ship has to be stopped. Go, Lieutenant. That's an order." Reluctantly, the bridge crew evacuated, leaving Nathan alone. He guided the Challenger directly toward the massive Kurthak command vessel. Its strange, organic surface filled the view screen, growing larger by the second. "Let's see how you like a little taste of a death world," Nathan murmured as he activated the final sequence. The Nova package armed with a soft beep. Nathan set the timer for 30 seconds, enough time for him to reach an escape pod if he hurried. He locked the ship's controls and ran from the bridge. The corridors were empty as he sprinted toward the nearest escape pod bay. The ship shuddered as it took hits from the Kurthak defenders, but nothing could stop its trajectory now. It was on a collision course with the command ship. Nathan reached the escape pod bay with 15 seconds to spare. He jumped into the last remaining pod and slammed the launch button. The pod ejected from the Challenger just as the ship made contact with the Kurthak vessel. The Nova package detonated on impact. A blinding flash lit up space as the controlled nuclear explosion engulfed both ships. The Challenger was vaporized instantly. The much larger Kurthak command ship broke apart, its strange organic structure unable to withstand the force of the explosion. Nathan's escape pod was caught in the blast wave. It tumbled end over end, its systems failing from the electromagnetic pulse. The last thing Nathan saw before losing consciousness was the Kurthak fleet falling into disarray on his pod's small display screen. Throughout the Valerian system, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Kurthak ships stopped their coordinated attacks. Some began firing randomly, others drifted aimlessly. Without the command ship to direct them, they had no idea how to respond to the human tactics. The remaining human ships, joined by the previously overwhelmed Valerian defenders, methodically began to eliminate the confused alien vessels. One by one, the Kurthak ships were destroyed or disabled. On the Valerian homeworld, the council chamber erupted in cheers as they watched the enemy fleet disintegrate. For the first time in a year, they dared to hope that their civilization might survive. "What happened?" asked the council elder. "Why did they suddenly fall apart?" Ambassador Ziktil studied the tactical displays. The humans found their weakness. The command ship was controlling the entire fleet, and the humans sacrificed their own ships and lives to destroy it. The elder's eyes blinked in confusion. Why would they do that? Why would their captain remain behind to ensure destruction of the command ship? Ziktil was quiet for a moment before answering. Because that's what Deathworlders do. They fight, not just to survive, but to ensure others survive as well, even at the cost of their own lives. The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Kurthak invasion had been stopped, and somewhere in the debris field, a small escape pod drifted, its occupant still breathing but badly injured. Emergency beacons flashed, waiting for rescue to arrive. 3 days after the battle, the Great Assembly Hall on Valeria Prime was filled with aliens and humans. The Confederation Council had organized a ceremony to honor those who had fought to save their civilization. The surviving human crews stood, in neat rows, their uniforms cleaned but still showing signs of battle damage. Some wore bandages. Others stood with the help of crutches. All looked tired but proud. Admiral Jack Warren, now the highest-ranking human officer in the system, stepped forward to accept the honors on behalf of Earth. The elder of the Valerian Council placed a glowing crystal medallion in his hands. "This is the Star of Salvation," the elder explained. "It has been awarded only twice in our 10,000-year history. Today we give it to the people of Earth, who came from across the stars to fight for those they had never met." Warren bowed, his head in acceptance. "We thank you for this honor, but the real heroes are those who gave their lives in the battle." The assembly grew quiet as the names of the fallen were displayed on large screens around the hall. Nearly 600 humans had died in the fighting. Compared to the billions of Valerian lives saved, it was a small number. But to the human survivors, each name represented a friend, a colleague, a fellow Deathworlder who had traveled far from home to protect others. "The alliance between our peoples begins today," Warren continued. "Humanity is ready to take its place among the galactic community, not just as warriors, but as explorers, scientists, and friends." Ambassador Zictil stepped forward. His blue skin had darkened slightly during the past days, a sign of emotional processing among his species. "When we sent our message to Earth, we called to the Deathworlders in our darkest hour," he said to the assembly. "We feared your violence without recognizing the other qualities that come with evolving on such a world: determination, sacrifice, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will to protect others. Today, we understand better what it means to be from Earth." Meanwhile, in a medical facility orbiting Valeria Prime, a team of doctors worked to save one particular human. Nathan Cole had been found in his damaged escape pod 12 hours after the battle. He was barely alive, suffering from radiation poisoning and injuries from the explosive decompression of his pod. Dr. Valerie Scott, the chief medical officer from the human fleet, led the team trying to save him. She worked alongside Valerian physicians who had never treated a human before. "His organs are failing," said the lead Valerian doctor, a tall female named Rilka. "By our standards, he should already be dead." "Humans don't give up easily," Valerie replied as she injected another dose of medicine into Nathan's arm. "Especially, not this one." For 2 weeks, Nathan remained in critical condition. The medical team used every technique they knew, combining human medicine with Valerian technology. Finally, on the 15th day, his condition stabilized. "His vital signs are strengthening," Rilka noted with surprise. "The cellular regeneration is proceeding at remarkable speed." Valerie smiled tiredly. She had barely slept during the past 2 weeks. "On Earth we have a saying, 'What doesn't kill us makes us stronger.'" Rilka looked confused. "A strange concept, but perhaps true for your kind." It took another week before Nathan regained consciousness. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking against the bright lights of the medical bay. The first face he saw was Dr. Scott's, smiling down at him. "Welcome back to the land of the living," she said. "You gave us quite a scare." Nathan tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. Valerie helped him take a small sip of water. "The Kurthak?" he managed to ask. "Defeated," she assured him. "Your crazy plan worked. When the command ship was destroyed, their whole fleet fell apart. The remaining human ships and the Valerians took care of the rest." Nathan closed his eyes in relief. "The crews? How many?" "We lost good people," Valerie admitted. "But most made it out in escape pods. The Challenger was the only ship completely destroyed." Over the next few days, as Nathan grew stronger, visitors came to see him. Admiral Warren gave him a full report on the battle's aftermath. The Kurthak had been driven from the Valerian system. Their remaining ships had fled into deep space, disorganized and no longer a threat. Ambassador Zictil also visited, bringing news from Earth. The president had been informed of their victory. Plans were already underway to establish formal relations between Earth and the Valerian Confederation. The first human embassy would open on Valeria Prime within the month. "Your people will be welcomed throughout our worlds," Zictil told Nathan. "The term Deathworlder is no longer spoken with fear, but with respect." When Nathan was finally able to leave his bed, He stood by a large window overlooking the Valerian homeworld. The planet below was beautiful, with vast blue oceans and swirling white clouds not unlike Earth. Cities glittered along the coastlines. Ships moved through the atmosphere, rebuilding what had been damaged in the war. Valerie joined him at the window. Pretty, isn't it? Almost makes you forget what we went through to save it. Almost, Nathan agreed, but not quite. The Valerians want to hold another ceremony when you're fully recovered, she told him. The whole Confederation wants to honor the hero who destroyed the command ship. Nathan shook his head. I'm no hero. I just did what needed to be done. Any of us would have done the same. That's what the Valerians are still trying to understand about us, Valerie said with a smile. To them, it's extraordinary. To us, it's just being human. 1 month later, Nathan stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city of Valeria Prime. He wore a formal uniform with the Star of Salvation pinned to his chest. Behind him, the newly opened Earth Embassy buzzed with activity as human diplomats, scientists, and cultural ambassadors prepared for their new roles. A young Valerian approached him holding a data pad. Captain Cole, I am Tiervol, assigned to the Cultural Exchange Program. May I ask you some questions about Earth? Nathan smiled. Of course. What would you like to know? Our scientists are still studying your physiology. They are particularly interested in your ability to survive conditions that would kill most species. Is it true that humans voluntarily expose themselves to high temperatures just for relaxation? You mean saunas? Nathan laughed. Yes, some of us enjoy that. Just like some of us climb mountains or dive into oceans for fun. The young alien's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in astonishment. And your people wish to explore the galaxy? To visit worlds very different from your own? That's the plan, Nathan confirmed. We've been looking at the stars for thousands of years, wondering what's out there. Now we finally get to find out. Tiervol made notes on his datapad. The Council believes that having Deathworlders as allies will prevent future attacks from species like the Kurthak. Is Earth prepared to help defend the Confederation if needed? Nathan looked out at the alien city, thinking about everything that had happened since that first message arrived on Earth asking for help. We came when you called, he said simply. We'll come again if needed. That's what allies do. As the sun set over Valeria Prime, ships rose from the spaceport. Some were Valerian, others were human vessels, preparing for the journey back to Earth. But they would return, bringing more humans eager to explore this new frontier. And throughout the galaxy, word was spreading quickly. A new species had emerged from an isolated system. They were called Deathworlders, and they had proven to be the most surprising allies anyone could have imagined.